Hello, I am Maha, an English teacher here in Tunisia, and I'm a PhD student of English linguistics. I'm glad to present my pilot study entitled The Relationship Between Creativity and Tolerance of Ambiguity to Understand Metaphorical Polysemy. First, I want to start by Tannenbaum's citation, the creative person is willing to live with ambiguity. He doesn't need problems solved immediately and can afford to wait for the right ideas. So here we can see the importance of creativity in solving our everyday problems. Research about creativity is gaining ground throughout the world due to its importance. Number one, the pioneers assumed that this construct was a fundamental trait of gifted people for their scientific discoveries. The second part, nowadays, this supernatural assumption is no longer feasible, as creativity studies have reached many contexts, the most considerable of which is the educational one. As we can see, all students are creative, but with different levels. So we cannot say that it is a supernatural trait. It is characteristics of many students, but of course with different levels. We are living in a world full of ambiguous situations. This is the second part of my research. First, it's our inner ability to face ambiguity which facilitates our choices. We are living in, of course, in a world full of ambiguity, and it is our talent to tolerate ambiguity which helps us to solve our problems. The second part, we can consider a new language as a new construct which cannot be deciphered unless the student is skillful at tolerating ambiguity. And here I presuppose that polysemous words are ambiguous. Of course, we cannot use polysemy and ambiguity interchangeably, but ambiguity can include polysemy. Number three, some researchers like Zinasny et al. 2008, McLean 2009, and Tadji 1993 from different disciplines like arts, business, and languages focus on tolerance of ambiguity as a prerequisite for creativity. So it seems that it is a part and parcel of creativity. Some previous studies link creativity to tolerance of ambiguity, like the research of Blacker and Ranzolli, 1999, and Urban, 2003. They claim that the more a person tolerates ambiguity, the more he becomes creative. So there is a correlation between the two here, creativity and tolerance of ambiguity. In ESP contexts, we have more interesting findings at vocabulary level, as it encompasses technical, core, and semi-technical vocabulary. Technical are scientific words. Core are the main meanings of words. And semi-technical vocabulary are polysemous words. In this study, I dealt with semi-technical vocabulary or polysemous words in business English. Let's have a look at business English throughout the literature. Pickett, 1986, highlights the polysemous nature of business English words as they take the core meaning of the general English and add an extra meaning specific to the language of business. So here we have two parts of the word. We have the core meaning and the extra meaning. Several authors have pointed out that the language of economics is highly metaphorical, like Henderson, 1982. Examples of metaphors in economics, we have mechanisms and machines, animals, plants and gardening, health and fitness, fighting and warfare, ships and sailing, and sports. So what does metaphorical polysemy mean? Here we have a definition which is suggested by Cliposiontu et al. 2012. In metaphorical polysemy, in which a relation of analogy is assumed to hold between the senses, the basic sense is literal, whereas the secondary one was originally figurative when this use of the word emerged. They further maintain that although polysemy is much more frequent in language, most psycholinguistic and neurolinguistic studies to date have focused mainly on homonymy. So here we have the definition of metaphorical polysemy as it includes literal and figurative meanings. My hypothesis is, if second-year business English students are creative and so able to tolerate ambiguity, so we see the correlation between creativity and tolerance of ambiguity, they will understand metaphorical polysemous words in both prototype theory and translation tests. And in the methods part, we will see more details. Methods. The participants were required to answer the multiple stimulus types ambiguity tolerance scale 2 or MSTAT II according to a 5-point Likert scale. Subsequently, Wallach and Kogan creativity test 1965 was then used to calculate tolerance of ambiguity and creativity correlation. So here I used two things. We have the tolerance scale, which was suggested by McLean, MSTAT II, and then we have the Wallach and Kogan creativity test. The goal of this research is to find the most suitable strategy to learn polysemous words, or at least to help in understanding their core and peripheral meanings according to their context. And here, I want to shed light on Berendi et al.'s experiment, which stands to examine whether explicit knowledge of the motivations behind, 1, the multiple senses of polysemous words hold and keep, and 2, idioms, including these words, help learners comprehend and remember these words better than other learners who learn the words via translation. So here it seems a comparison between translation and idioms, or we have the metaphorical part of the research. So here we have the prototype theory, in which, for example, we can suggest one word with its different meanings. Of course, we have the core meaning and the peripheral meanings. These words are defined by dividing their core and peripheral meanings to the students, of course, and then the students are going to sit for a test of these multiple senses of polysemous words. Then the students are going to sit for another test of translation, and we will go to the comparison part. The findings. 1. Creativity test scores. There is a considerable difference between sub-criteria scores, as students got the highest scores in fluency and the least ones in elaboration. Of course, creativity includes different criteria. So we have here the highest scores in fluency. So they are more fluent, okay? And they outperformed the elaboration criterion. The second part, 3 students out of 4 almost got convergent results, 40, 41, 46. They seem to be similarly tolerating ambiguity. Number 3, there is a slight positive relationship between creativity and tolerance of ambiguity. And this supports some previous research in which some researchers said that there is a correlation between creativity and tolerance of ambiguity. Number 4, a slight positive relationship between creativity and translation tests. Number 5, a very high relationship between tolerance of ambiguity and translation tests. Number 6, there is a high positive relationship between creativity and prototypical meanings tests. The 7th part, the relationship between tolerance of ambiguity and prototypical meanings tests is very weak. The discussion now. The relationship between creativity and tolerance of ambiguity is positive but weak. And here, as it is a pilot study, I can mention that we can enlarge the number of the participants so that maybe we will have broader results. A positive relationship between creativity and semi-technical vocabulary tests scores. So here we have a positive relationship again between creativity and Polysymous tests scores. Next, we have a clear support for the marked relationship between creativity level and understanding the prototypical meanings of words. The tolerance of ambiguity and prototypical meanings tests scores correlation is very weak. Here, I can suggest that understanding prototypical meanings does not depend on one's tolerance of ambiguity level, as all meanings were presented in advance, leaving no room for ambiguity. And now we have the conclusion. The results show that there is a slight correlation between creativity and tolerance of ambiguity. The prototypical meanings of words helped students to deal with polysymous words. Business English is metaphorical, entailing a detailed analysis of polysymous words categories. So here, some people, they will be amazed by this finding that Business English is metaphorical. Yes, it is metaphorical, and in its vocabulary, we have a big part of polysymous words. And thank you.